Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can do this today. I said I would do this video today, but I was almost not up for it because yours truly lost his job. The facility where I worked at shut down, so a whole bunch of other people got terminated, including me. So I have prospects. For example, I am a delivery driver, and a company that might swoop in and scoop up our customers is, I suspect, is where I'm going to wind up. If not, I've got a couple other possibilities I saw already to take a look at, and I do have a decent cushion of money in the bank, so I am doing basically well, although I did not get as much sleep as I thought I would. A little anxious, a little tired, but so I almost didn't do this, but I thought, no, let me do this and get my mind off things. It'll make me feel a little bit better. So I'm going to get right on this here. So as you can see here, I've got some Jeff Vandermeir books, and I went for this one. This is the third in a series of books about a particular city, and maybe one of the last remaining cities. A company had obliterated the environment. It's called Dead Astronauts. The others being Born and the Strange Bird. The Southern Reach trilogy and the Born and Strange Bird, I really enjoyed Vandermeir's prose, but not in this one. I didn't make it 57 pages before I put this down. I just could not continue. This is nothing for me. This involves some time travelers or shapeshifters, world hoppers, but the actual sentences themselves and references to things that someone's thinking that you have no context for just didn't make any sense, and I just couldn't keep going on that one. Here's where Barnes & Noble tricked me into reading a young adult novel. This was, I don't think all the Barnes & Nobles are like this, but the young adult and the science fiction and fantasy are sitting like right next to each other in the store. And in this case, there was a table put where the adults, the regular sci-fi and adult fantasy section was. I thought, oh, this must be a new thing for this. And look how pretty it is. I like looking at it, like the phrases on here. Stars burn, and so do I. And starting reading it and found out, yeah, this is definitely a YA. Looked it up even, definitely YA. This kind of almost reads manga-like, if you please. Like this odd scene of them getting out into space and these giant robots and having a jousting contest. And I don't know how long I was supposed to take it, but it just didn't work for me, and I didn't keep up with it. And I did get to 100 pages, I think. It's not horrible, just not something for me. It just didn't interest me at all. So the rest of this is primarily a recap of the year. I started booktube, and the books here are what I started reading at about that time. I reviewed, I think, all of them at one point. And so the first, by Reynolds Machine, almost forgot Vendetta. And this is this takes place in his Revelation Space series, but it is a part of a trilogy within that, involving Inspector Dreyfus. This is the police chief force of around another world, kind of CIA-like, kind of FBI-like, kind of police-like, and they keep the peace. And one of their biggest things is to protect a voting system that all the floating space stations and colonies enact to keep law. In this, there's a war between two artificial intelligences going on. He's stuck in the middle of it. There's a cyberpunk style possession. His wife is involved, who has serious head injuries. This is an outstanding book. I think Reynolds said something about he was kind of done with Revelation Space for the time being, but I thought there might have been a hint that he's going to do a fourth book with Inspector Dreyfus here. So if he does, good, because I really like him a lot. The Bloodstones by Tori Tekken. You know who this is? She is a YouTuber and author. She's authored 14 books, from what I understand. And so this came up in an interview with Murphy Napier, and I went ahead and said, no, with it. I got old big TBR. I don't care. I went and got this first. Involves two major storylines. The first one being a young prince who has been kidnapped and taken off to some kind of training camp. And the other being down south of all the happenings of that in what is essentially barbarian land. And the two primary characters haven't met yet, and we'll see if they meet and get along. Well written. I even told her I had flashes of Patrick Rothfuss in reading this. I really liked it and cannot wait. She is hard at work on booktube. Okay, so Dragon Prince by Melanie Ron. This wasn't bad. It's just for whatever reason when I started, I realized something I wasn't quite in the mood for it, and I actually wound up not finishing this. They hunt dragons, and there's an arranged marriage starting, and that's about as far as I got before I got into that. I actually own all 3 books in the trilogy, but couldn't get much past that. Some of these are a little bit out of order, but they're together in their own series. Here we have Gareth Hanrahan, The Sword Defiant and The Sword Unbound. I don't recall when the 3rd book is coming out. I'd have to look, but so these are These are so much fun to read. And these are like essentially Dungeons and Dragons, but you don't need to be a Dungeons and Dragons fan to enjoy these. See that sword right there? That sword right there? This sword has a purpose, has a mind of its own, it's sentient, it talks, it has all kinds of powers, the most powerful thing on the planet. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants the evil city that the lich that they slayed in an earlier adventure before these books happened. He had a city all of himself, and everybody wants it. Everybody wants power. And a lot of different nations and politicking going on between them. And this fighter who is not stupid, but he's not the genius of the bunch. He's just pretty simple guy. If he's going to get in a fight, let's just get in a fight and get it over with. Both these, the sword steals the scene, but both the sword and the sword wielder, too much fun to read. And oh boy, does this leave things in an amazing place. This is the first one, this is the second one, so can't wait for the 3rd to see what happens there. This I saw on Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and primarily the reason I got it, not only because of his enthusiasm for it, but I like floating glyphs, sigils. Oh, it's beautiful. And so there it is on the cover of that book. This is basically a space fantasy. It hasn't directly called this magic just yet, but that's either that or it's superpowers or something. The setup here is that Earth is way behind. All these ships, these fleets of ships were made to go find these, chase after these artifacts. They're like giant worlds unto themselves, and they're artificial in nature. And Earth's long gone, it's lost, and all they do is spending time sending people hopping over to what they call the Titans. Those are those worlds, trying to get resources and technology from them. And along the way, they learn to use their powers. And these Titans are filled with creatures and factions of their own. And it's just a lot of, this is, I don't want to call it school. It's not Harry Potter, but there is training in this to get better and better and better at using your sigil. There is outstanding. Look, I have a sequel. I just haven't gotten to that yet, but I will sometime this year. Pow, that one's done. Put that back. Mark Greaney. This is The Chaos Agent, a Gray Man novel. I can't remember what number this one is, but it's over a dozen, I think. And this is the Gray Man versus artificial intelligence, basically. If you don't know what these are, take Jason Bourne and remove the brainwashing training, and you get the Gray Man. These are really fun to read. I usually read sci-fi and fantasy. This is one of the few things I have fell into reading outside of it. I actually originally started it because I had watched The Day of the Jackal, and I wanted more of it. And this sounded like it. The blurb sounded like it in the original book. It's nothing like it at all, but I loved it anyway, and I kept on going. The Wager. So this was an eye-opener. David Gran. This is just what you probably heard of. It's ships going around the Horn. How many of these old stupid ships said, we're going around the Horn for glory? And I guess they didn't have much of a choice anyway if they want to get to the Pacific Ocean. But, oh man, the lives lost. These are little bitty ships. They're, I think, I did this before in another video. It was upwards of 1,000 tons. You take a modern day aircraft carrier, those are 100,000 tons, and going around the Horn, they will dip their bows under the water. So imagine trying to do it in one of these little buckets. It's nuts. And most of the people die. That's simple. Quit doing that. Retroactively, quit doing that. Next, of course, Vandermeir. Really, the only reason I started, I had seen the movie, but the reason I started reading the books because I am on Murphy Napier's Discord, and everybody just praises and praises and praises Vandermeir, and it's well received, well deserved rather. Annihilation, Acceptance, Authority. That's all a trilogy there. This is wonderful reading. I thought I enjoyed the living hell out of this. There are characters in this you might not think much of, but as the books go on, you see these side characters getting elaborated on, and what's going on about this area that's just warped reality and how it got there. Maybe there's a big hint and kind of an explanation for it, which I provided when I read it. This Born and A Strange Bird, overlapping books. Like I said, unfortunately, I couldn't deal with the third one in the series. Oh well, what are you gonna do? But so he's I'm 5 for 6 for Vandermeir. Just love his writing. He's got quite a few more books out. I'll get to them eventually here and there, but I'm going to definitely take a Vandermeir break. Then we got, these are recent, The Blighted Stars and The Fractured Dark. How to quickly explain these as there's a love story at the center of it. So I guess you call it a space opera romance. There is a blight that is just wrecking worlds, so they can't go out and get their resources from them that they really want. And in examining that, we a whole lot of family issues here about who's who and who's up to what and for what reason they're up to it. And stuck in the middle of it is this warrior woman who is formerly a bodyguard of the ruler of essentially the galaxy, it sounds like. They don't really talk about the government that much. It sounds like these companies are the government. And she separates from him, and you have a lot of uploading into new bodies going on here, a little cyberpunk action happening there. And there is a third book due out. It's next week, the 25th. And so I will get that. That'll be one of the things I read soon. But right now, I got this jobby-do right here, Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is just 200 pages. I'm on, where are we at here? 80. I will either finish this today or tomorrow. This hooks you from the beginning. This is a fantasy world with technology on it, and their views of reality are just essentially different. And when they go back and forth between the two primary characters, it is so much fun to read about. So next week, along with this, I intend to try to finish off Web of Angels. This is a cyberpunk book that predates Neuromancer by a few years. And I, being a cyberpunk fan, I saw it sitting in the store. This is old, this is a new edition, so said, yeah, we're going to do that one next. So these two are next. Read that and do a video next week on that stuff. Oh! This is what else I took up this year. One Piece. This goes up to, let's see, where are we at here? Where are the chapter numbers here? We on, this only went up to 254, but I'm actually on 710 or 11 because it was just going to be something like $700 to get caught up physically. So spend $3 a month on biz.com, and not only do you get all of One Piece, but you get whatever manga you want to read too. So that was too much of a deal for me to pass up. And let me tell you, I've said it before, I'm going to be brought kicking and biting and fighting into a non-physical book world. But it was just going to be a little more money than I wanted to spend to get caught up. I think that, so you've got the Straw Hats. Luffy wasn't doing much for me, but he won me over recently. I don't think this is spoiling much. just a little one. There's a prison break going on, and Luffy's in the middle of it, and there's all these other characters around. We gotta go that way. We gotta go that way. They're gonna get us. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And they're panicking and freaking out. And right in the middle of it, he's like, look at the size of this big bloody booger I just picked out of my nose. And I started laughing my ass off and became a Luffy fan because of that. If the one I'm rooting for most, though, when it comes to fights, not necessarily as the best character or something, is Zoro. And he is a sword fighter. 3 swords at one time if he needs to. He has super strength, because I've done videos where I can actually kind of estimate where he's lifting hundreds of tons. And he's kind of the Wolverine of the bunch. He's just tough, badass, drinks a lot. He's got bladed weapons. His story is the least of them, though, because all the other characters in the Straw Hats, and a lot of the characters they wind up fighting and getting involved with, have some kind of hyper drama or trauma in their history. Zoro, well, he kept losing sword fights to a girl, and so now he wants to be the world's greatest swordsman. Well, excuse me. So, but it's One Piece is absurd and it's over top, but it is a lot of fun. And when it gets emotional, it gets very emotional. There's one of the reasons I started reading is because there's people crying over this. And once I got through a bunch of it, I was like, oh, I understand completely. So that's it. See you next week for this batch. Might do a prose thing for this one. If you've seen those videos I do, little shorts I do. That's it. See you in a week. Good luck. Good luck for me too. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.